Hey, what's up? We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Kim, and I'm the creator of WorkHardTravelWell.com and the creator of the hashtag WorkHardTravelWell. And on my website, I talk about best travel tips for the busy professional, and I talk about like ways to be able to take time off and see the world. I also have an online apparel store. If you're watching from YouTube, be sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell for notifications. And if you're watching from Facebook, please like the Work Hard Travel Well Facebook page. As a disclaimer, I'll start off by saying I'm not posting this video as a way to encourage people to travel. I'm simply giving some footage and giving information and things on what happened when I travel and what some of the travel industry is implementing. So I haven't traveled in like 6 months. I was supposed to travel to Mexico in June, but Mexico was not open at the time, and I just don't feel comfortable going out of the country right now. And my flight ended up being canceled. Thank goodness. So I was able to get a refund, because if a person cancels their flight, they're more likely to possibly get a credit. It's much easier if the airline cancels it. So since they did, I was able to get a refund. After all of that happened, I ended up thinking and considering a domestic trip, and I couldn't really think of anywhere to go nearby. So I thought about where I could travel that wasn't so far of an airplane ride, because I know, things are going to be different. So I didn't want to spend too much time in the airplane, on an airplane, and just at the airport and just having a long travel day. So I thought about somewhere I could go quickly. At the time, I was comfortable traveling because Southwest specifically said that they were not allowing people to sit in the middle seats and that it was not full. In my research and determining where I wanted to go, I checked like different destinations. I checked the health department of each state I was interested in visiting. So if you look at that, it tells you kind of the rules for like traveling to that destination. I also looked at like hotels, and I learned that they were not operating at full capacity, as well as some of the measures that the hotels have taken that I'll get into later on. At the time, I knew I'd be able to impose a self quarantine of 14 days or more when I returned. I knew that I would not be around any family members or basically anyone. When I came back, I went to the store maybe once within those 14 days, and I made sure I went on non-peak hours and just like really got in there and got out. Have you decided to travel? Let me know in the chat if you've decided to travel, and if you have been doing like or if you plan on doing road trips or day trips or staycations. Let's move on to kind of the airport. I basically got to the airport a little less than 2 hours before the flight. Since it wasn't international, I was kind of running a bit late. I decided to do park and ride, and one of the things that's changed with park and ride, in Atlanta at least, is that they aren't having as many shuttles and things going back and forth, because at the time travel was not as extensive as it usually is for Atlanta. So I was a little late getting that. I wanted to get to the airport. I wanted to get there right at 2 hours. There was no curbside check-in, so everyone was inside, printing out their tickets, dropping off their luggage if they needed to. There was not any social distancing in the queues for dropping off your bag like you would think. So that was kind of the thing. And there was supposed to be social distancing within the security lines. There wasn't. They had markers out there. I didn't take any footage of that because of, security lines. So they had markers out there. People did not social distance. Some people did, but people don't understand the concept of space.
What a short back up. Didn't we?
Or when you got up to the podium for the customs agent to look at your stuff, he looked at your license. You kept your mask on until the agent asked you to take it down. Security was about the same as it usually is in Atlanta, and security moved pretty quickly. I was able to get through security probably within 30 minutes within Atlanta. And this is what I saw when I went through the airport. This was an evening flight, and usually in Atlanta it's a lot more crowded than this. And everyone's running for this first train. As you can see, that's too many people for me. Like, the whole point of this is you're supposed to be social distancing. So I went to this next train. It's not that much better, but it's a lot better than kind of the last train that you see. Getting off, just going through the terminal or the gate area, terminal area. I believe this is Terminal C, whatever terminal is for Southwest Airlines, and a lot of the places you can see are closed. There's like a few places, and you were supposed to wear a mask in the airport. They have someone that comes over the intercom reminding people, of course, about security and also wearing masks. And they mention even that you can report people that you see that aren't wearing masks. Here is some footage from my boarding experience. So everyone must be wearing a face mask or face covering before boarding the aircraft.
First, that'll be the wheelchairs and the pre-board authorizations. After that, A1 through 10. Once those folks are seated, 10 through 20, 20 through 30, okay? And thanks again, folks. We do appreciate your business here at Southwest. Thank you. So the airline boarded in zones like they normally do. If you know anything about Southwest, they don't assign seats. So it's still the same zones. I would have thought they would have boarded from back to front. So like starting with a different zone, but they started with A. So you basically were boarded in the front if you were in the A group. In preparation for the flight, I already traveled this way, but I made sure I had enough wipes. I traveled with wipes, and also I put them in the bag so it's easier to travel with and making sure it doesn't like leak on stuff, and it's easy to put into different compartments. And I also always have, well, now I have gloves. Like after I saw Naomi Campbell's like routine on how she cleans her plane, like her seat and stuff, I was like, oh yeah, I need to get gloves. So I've been using gloves for some time, but I really was glad I had them. So wipe down everything. And I would like to have in the future though is like a little baggie, so I could take those wipes, put in the little baggie, and also the gloves, because it was a while before the flight attendants came around to collect the like wipes, because when she posted her video, which was over a year ago, and she already had this routine down to a science. I also travel with face masks. I got these off of Amazon. They arrived pretty quickly, and they were a good cost for what masks are going for these days. And I had a cloth mask as well, but for those disposables, I use those on the plane. So if I'm like, as soon as I get off, I'm tossing that. I'm not going to wear the same mask, a cloth mask that I wore on the plane, and wear it around because I don't have time to wash it in the hotel. Flight attendants provided a snack halfway through the flight. I would have thought they would have passed it out before. I know Delta gives you a snack and water before you get on the plane in a little package, and there's no alcohol service. There's limited snacks, as you can see. Just get like a bootleg Chex Mix. This is the arrival airport. It was not that crowded. If you travel, do you normally travel with wipes and masks, or wipes and gloves, or when you start to travel again, when you begin to implement new things that you go travel with? Let me know in the comments. We used Uber to get to the hotel. I will say I understood before going and did my research that Hilton and Marriott and most of the hotels were not going to be at capacity, which was another comforting thing. Before booking, I learned that Hilton had a notice for travelers. So basically making sure that you know before you book the rules. So they changed the cancellation fee, so you were able to cancel up to a day before, but also they made a note on their website that says if you're coming from New York or any of the hot zones, you'd have to basically quarantine for 14 days. I'm not sure how that's enforced or what they're looking for. I was surprised that there were still events going on at the Hilton Hotel. There's reduced service at things such as the pool. They did not have the breakfast buffet, so if you're a Gold member and you're used to getting breakfast at this hotel particularly, you need to research if they have buffets, what are some of the alternatives. I asked beforehand and found out that they would provide us with a $20 voucher per person to their cafe. The hotel did have up dividers so that when you do talk to the front desk, you can, have that divider. They had on masks. The mask rule wasn't really that enforced. There were people that basically wore their mask, and there were some people that walked around with their hands covering their mouth, and some people that walked around with their shirts covering. And I'm just like, okay. And I saw some people come in and they didn't have a mask, and I heard the front desk attendant ask, where are your mask? And they said, oh, we left it in the car. And she's like, I'm gonna close my eyes and pretend I don't see you guys. So she kind of joked about it, but it's like, yeah, this is kind of a serious matter. There was signs all over that you need to social distance. I made sure if the elevator was full, I just, let the next one come in the room. I've always traveled this way. I cleaned up everything before I even put stuff down. I take the wipes, I wipe everything from the remotes to the things to the blind openers to everything. So when you're traveling, already just kind of have those things that you can travel with. Don't depend on people to have them, and don't depend on being able to buy them. Because would you stay in a hotel or an Airbnb if you do any travel? Right now, let me know in the chat if you would do hotels or Airbnb. See, a few people have stated that they would stay in a hotel. Not many people are saying Airbnb. Okay, so when we went out to eat, I have not been out to a restaurant in a long time. Everyone flocked to the patio because that's recommended to eat outdoors. And when they flocked to the patio, there was like a lot of empty seats in the restaurant. I would specifically ask for certain tables that I noticed that were kind of like off in the cut because I didn't want to be around a lot of people. And when you're walking through the restaurants, people like nobody really had their mask on because they're eating. Some restaurants require that you wear your mask while you're ordering, which I like. As you can see in this picture, a lot of restaurants did not have paper menus anymore. You could scan a QR code to look at their menu, and so that's kind of like the new norm now. So make sure you have a QR reader on your phone. And also, this was something, since I hadn't been out to eat in a while, is this COVID-19 protection charge. As you can see, it is a discretionary COVID-19 charge that added to the bill to help offset the cost of additional precautions and implement and protect our guests and staff. And in this particular restaurant, they did have paper menus, but they encouraged you to do the QR code. And when you did get a paper menu, they basically tore it up. One waitress even tore it up in front of our face. That's something you're just gonna have to get used to. I mean, a lot of people are kind of doing away with paper menus to eliminate touch points. Okay, so that was that. Some of the activities, I did go to a beach, but I went to a beach that was like just recently open, so it wasn't a lot of people there. I went non-peak hours, and our hotel came with chairs, so that was good. I made sure the chairs were set up away from people, not close to people, so there was social distancing going on the beach. There wasn't that many people wearing masks on the beach. So that's that. I also went to a casino because I thought there would be social. They talked about like an occupancy cap there, and there wasn't. What made me decide to go to a casino is like they just opened, like literally June 12th. This is from the Hollywood Hard Rock Casino. But let me show you some of the technology that took place in this casino. So basically, as you arrive at this casino, there is playing it safe, and safe sound is their like mission at this casino. Is what they're doing going forward. They require that you wear a mask. As you can see, there is like here's how you stay 6 feet apart, things like that. So their Safe Sound program basically has mandatory masks. They practice social distancing. They have some type of purification system. They have a lot of hand sanitizers. Only thing about the hand sanitizers is that there wasn't a lot of. Sometimes there would be some that were not filled up. Another promise from this Safe Sound program is that basically they would do temperature checks. They would only operate at 50%, and they had basically dividers and only certain at the tables, and they only had a certain amount of slot machines. Like every other slot machine was open. The only thing about this is that caused lines and gatherings around these machines. So here is basically a thermal scanner. Have you guys, been to a place where they take your temperature now? Is it more of they hold a device to your forehead and take the temperature? Or what have you seen? Let me know in the chat if you've been to places where they take your temperature. So they took the temperature with this thermal scanner, and it is basically a scanning device that looks at your body temperatures and looks at everything. So you can see as you can walk through this area here, and they're basically scanning you and taking your temperature before you even enter. So if you have temperature above the CDC guidelines, they did not let you in. I don't know how heavily that was enforced, or if anyone's been turned away. But this is kind of the new wave about temperature scanning, or basically thermal scanning right now. And the thermal scanners, you'll see them. They're like a big TV screen, and then you'll see a camera, and then you see somebody monitoring it behind with a computer. But most companies are starting to implement this because think about how timely and things like this can help with versus taking a device and scanning it. So scanning, putting it up to your forehead. Here's what I was a little shocked about. As you can see, once we pan up, this is the crowd that was here. And it may not be a lot for this size casino, but I was just kind of shocked by the crowd. I basically did not stay that long at this casino only because I wasn't that comfortable with the level of social distancing that a lot of people were doing. I just chose to leave because it was just too many people there. So although it may be reduced supposedly at 50%, I could not really tell, so I chose to leave.
As for me, I don't see myself doing any more airline flights unless it's an emergency. I'm really going to be sticking close to, if I do travel, I'm going to do road trips, day trips, staycations. When I see people on the news that are basically stating their case on why they should not be forced to wear a mask, that makes me not really comfortable at wanting to travel, especially not with airlines, because you don't have control over what's going on. People around you who refuse to wear masks, they're not really enforcing it. I know in the airport, on the intercom, they mentioned to report people that you see that aren't wearing masks. I definitely saw people that weren't wearing masks, and I made sure I did not sit near them. And so since seeing all of that, I'm just like, I don't, especially when I went to the casino, I'm like, this is not something I want to be doing because people already don't have good sense or good sense right now or before this happened. So it's just got even worse with COVID-19. And so I don't see myself in traveling that much. I don't see myself flying during the pandemic, and it's going to be very little travel during the pandemic. I'm going to be doing road trips, like I said, or day trips. But I'm going to include a link to a free guide where it talks about the best discounts for traveling, whether it be rental car, hotels. I have already compiled a list, so make sure you download the list, click the description of this video for more details, and be sure to subscribe to this channel. And thank you for watching. Take care.